let's start. And I think you have all seen the agenda. The agenda is, as I said, that we would like to give you a general introduction to the Oceans mission. And for that, we have Michela Gigli from the Commission. Then we will also talk a little about how we work with that, what initiatives, projects related to the Oceans mission we are involved in Denmark. We will also have a presentation about the regional perspectives of the mission. And then in the end, I will say a little bit about how we are planning to follow up on this meeting and our idea to create a Danish mission hub. And in the end, we will have some Q&As. If you have questions, remarks during the presentations, we will see if we can handle some of them during the way. But if not, then we will take them in the end. So with this very, very short introduction, I would like to give the word to you, Michela, from the Commission. So please, and just one small thing, we are having the slides in our office here. So therefore, when you want us to shift, just send us a signal. Good, but the word is yours, Michela.
Thank you very much, Niels. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michaela Gigli, and I work at the European Commission, in particular at I'm a member of the Mission Restore Our Ocean and Waters Secretariat, which is composed of the mission managers from DG Mare and DG Research and Innovation. So I represent today my head of unit from DG Research and Innovation, who could unfortunately not be with us today. But let me first of all please convey on behalf of the entire mission team how impressed we are with the Danish efforts to work with us on this mission. We had already a very short presentation on the layout of the Danish mission hub at an internal meeting at the Commission. So we are already really grateful for this high interest that the different stakeholders in Denmark show for our mission. And I think it's also quite visible at the nice turnout in this meeting today. So we are really looking forward for a very strong and successful collaboration and partnership with the Danish Mission Hub. And with this, I will start to present you a bit more the mission, what it is about. So we could go to the next slide, please. So to give you a quick overview of what the mission aims to achieve. So you may have heard that we have a 2030 horizon, and we target these three main challenges, namely to protect 30% of the EU's sea area, to restore marine ecosystems, and achieve 25,000 kilometers of free-flowing rivers. Then we also look at the pollution aspect by reducing plastic litter at sea, nutrient losses, and use of chemical pesticides by 50%. And thirdly, we aim to make the blue economy climate neutral and circular with net zero maritime emissions. So to support these three objectives, in addition, we rely on two cross-cutting enablers. The one is the digital twin of the ocean, and the other one is public mobilization and engagement. If we go to the next slide, I can just quickly say something about why do we need a mission on top of all the initiatives we already have. So the mission is not supposed to be yet another initiative as a standalone activity, but it aims to be inclusive, systemic and transformative, and really bundling all the efforts that already exist at EU, national, regional and local levels. So the rationale is a bit to overcome this this fragmented, partial and sometimes sectoral governance frameworks that still exist. So, of course, in addition, the mission itself is also putting in place some new initiatives, delivering on the European Green Deal, for instance, through funding of projects through our work program that I will talk to you a bit later. And but mainly, so the overall goal is really to mobilize all the actors, activities that need to work together to reach all these very highly ambitious objectives. So indeed, we go here and look at the mission lighthouses. So what are mission lighthouses? The mission is developed in two phases. So we have started now the first phase where we develop first of all, and later we roll out in the last 5 years. So this means at the moment, because we're still at the start of the mission, we focus on more on a regional dimension. So we have developed these lighthouses at sites that develop, test, and deploy transformative and innovative solutions. So we have the Atlantic and Arctic Lighthouse, the Baltic and North Sea Lighthouse, the Mediterranean and the Danube River Basin Lighthouse, because do not forget, this is not only the oceans mission, this is the ocean and waters mission. So we also focus on the water aspect. So this is the first phase until 2025 that we are focusing on one objective per sea basin. Eventually, however, and this is very important, we need to achieve all the mentioned objectives in all the lighthouses. So we have therefore also in our projects, we have embedded the concept of associated regions that are regions in neighboring or in different regions in sea basins that have similar ecosystems, and they also aim to deploy the solutions developed in the projects and other activities. So yeah, in order not to be too long, I will go to the next slide. And of course, in Denmark, we are par excellence focusing on the Baltic and the North Sea Lighthouse. So again, here, the idea was to start with one of the objectives, which is the objective 3 that focuses on the decarbonization aspects. And you can see in the slides the main targets that we're aiming to achieve in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and zero carbon, low impact aquaculture and circularity, and the multi-purpose use of marine space. And however, as I said, the aim is, of course, also eventually to work on the other objectives in your sea basin. So with that, I will go to the next slide and introduce to you the mission charter. So this is this charter is calling for joining efforts to achieve our mission objectives, and so you can basically pledge any action, any of you who has an activity, any action that contributes to the mission's objective. So it can be projects, initiatives, programs, policies, promoted by public or private funds at EU level, national, regional, or local level. So we want to establish a simple and inclusive framework to enhance cooperation, mobilize resources, and develop activities to deliver on the mission objectives. This charter is non-binding, so it is open to any public or private interested party. But we can see in the next slide why we would like you to adhere to the charter. So why should you sign the mission charter? Because you can send a clear signal on the importance to protect the ocean and waters. You can be involved in major mission fora and events, multiply the opportunities for networking, be part of the mission community of practice. You can benefit from services and tools, and from a dynamic investment ecosystem, which all of it is in the making. I do not have a specific slide for this, but we have launched this so-called mission implementation platform. It is very, very soon going live. So we will have a very interactive web portal where all our charter, those that adhere to the charter can interact with each other, will be regularly informed about all kinds of different events, about all kinds of different funding opportunities. There will be, there will be more services provided over the next years, such as hopefully kinds of twinning, peer-to-peer learning, mentoring, technical assistance, and so on. So this is, like I said, this is all still in the making and a bit of an outlook for the years to come. I can also say later on a little bit more about that. So in the next slide, you can see that the Baltic and North Sea Lighthouse is quite strong. So at the moment, there are in total 60 actions already pledged. We can quickly skip through these slides. So the next one is a bit small, but so actually 32 out of the 60 actions pledged to the charter in the whole Baltic and North Sea Lighthouse come from Denmark. So that's quite impressive as well. And here you can see how the process works to be part of the mission. So you will find a link on the mission website to endorse the charter. And once your pledge is assessed, it will be listed as a mission action and displayed on the mission atlas. So that we see an example on the next slide, how it looks like at the moment. And then you can also click on these icons and you see the actions. And like I said, it will be all with the mission implementation platform portal. There will be much more information and networking possibilities available in the coming months. So again, your benefits as mission actor. So I said already some of this. So you will get visibility. You will get the possibility to do networking, and with the mission implementation platform, we will aim to offer a one-stop shop, to share knowledge, get policy advice, financial advice, and technical assistance, as well as investment opportunities and further advisory services. So we have, at the moment, there are several CSAs, which is the Coordination and Support Action, launched from the mission. And they have also given a few awards, actually, which we see on the next slide. So there are different kinds of instruments launched. We will need to see if we continue this award, but there will be other kind of incentives if this one is limited, let's say. And then we have also in the next, in this slide, exactly, you see we have big lighthouse events, and there was, of course, the kickoff for, let's say, for the Baltic and North Sea lighthouse launched in Hamburg just a few weeks ago, which was a high-level event to which some of you have probably attended. And so this has also hopefully given some visibility to different stakeholders involved from your side. Here we have, just to give you an outlook, that we have indeed started to talk to different industrial and other stakeholder communities bilaterally. So we really aim to provide tailored and targeted services to various communities of actors and stakeholders that could help us in the mission, and to whom we can hopefully provide in turn some very attractive services and support. I will now go over to talk to you a bit about funding possibilities in the mission directly. So this is what we call our work program, where we have the calls for proposals that we are launching on a regular basis. As you know, the mission started in 2021. So there was, let's say roughly every year so far, we had between 100 and 120 million roughly available in funding directly going to mission projects. So the 2021 and 2022 calls, all the proposals were assessed. The projects from 2021 are up and running. The 2022, they are just starting now. And now what you may be most interested in is the 2023 calls, because these calls for proposals are currently open with a deadline of 20th of September. So we have roughly 100 million euros of funding available. And in the next slide, I can start to give you a little bit of a more content overview of what we are funding. In order not to make my presentation last 2 hours, I will only focus at the moment on the Baltic and North Sea Lighthouse, where, like I said, we are still focusing mainly on the third objective of the mission, which is the more decarbonization and circularity aspect and the use of maritime space. So in blue, you can see the projects that are funded, and I hope that amongst the audience are also several of the beneficiaries that's from Denmark that take part in these projects. Now what is open is the one in green that you can see. It's the green energy efficient and sustainable small-scale fishing fleets projects, innovation actions that we aim to get projects. You can, we have a very detailed info day that we had, which was recorded, and I also have the link in the slides. So because I'm not able to give any, more details now in my presentation, but you can watch that. I'm just going quickly to the next slide, which could also be of interest, because the European Blue Parks topics that we are funding, they are also not specific for for one particular lighthouse. And then you can also see that in 2022 there was the Protect Baltic project, which will be funded. So about restoration measures for a resilient Baltic Sea ecosystem. So thank you. Then we have also some cross-basin topics, the ones that are open now. So this means also this could be of interest to you. We have currently the opportunity to apply to a call on European natural lakes. So this could perhaps be interesting, or a call together with the climate adaptation mission and the soil mission on a joint demonstration of an integrated approach to increasing landscape water retention capacity. And then in the objective 3, so we have basically two smaller research and innovation actions that we would like to see proposals on nature inclusive concept design and practices for offshore renewables, and analysis of obstacles and opportunities for repurposing aged or unused offshore infrastructures. So this is what's currently open, as well as in this slide on the enablers. We have digital. We have digital twin of the ocean, 2 topics, a CSA and a research and innovation action. And in the next slide, you see opportunities for public mobilization and engagement. Choose Your Fish, a campaign for responsible consumption of products from the sea, and ocean, water, and the arts. So it's about creative sectors. So what I didn't show now are the slides for the other lighthouses, but that doesn't mean, of course, that Danish entities cannot apply to the other to other calls for proposals. Of course, they are open to anyone. It's just out of time constraints, I didn't present them all. So here's just this summary again. So the call deadline is the 20th of September. For our ocean and waters mission alone, we have 11 topics with a call budget of nearly 90 million. And then we have this one joint call with the soil and the adaptation mission with a budget to 15 million euro. And you can see the link to the info days there, where you can get a very detailed presentation of all the different calls for proposals that are open. So then I'm coming nearly to an end. So to sum up, again, so the Baltic and North Sea Lighthouse is very active so far. I have shown you a little bit the EU-funded projects. So we had this high-level kickoff event for the lighthouse. We have the charter, where we have already 32 actions from Denmark pledged. And of course, many, I didn't make a slide on that, but certainly many of you are beneficiaries in the already funded projects. And we also have a publication, a baseline study for the implementation of the lighthouse in the Baltic and North Sea. Yeah, I will not say much more, but it has also quite some interesting aspects on projects funded already, for instance, through other programs and so on. Then we can go to the next slide, please. So which is my last slide. This slide just gives an outlook a little bit on what we in DG Research and Innovation, and particularly in my unit, are working on, because we're not working, like I said, the mission is not a standalone initiative for us, and it's not conceived like that. So we, in terms of funding opportunities that we are directly involved in, we have, of course, also the main work program, as we call it, so the cluster 6 of Horizon Europe, where we have many other funding opportunities in the area of healthy ocean and seas and inland water. And then we have also in our unit, we are working on the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership, where we have very strong synergies with our mission. And so the aim is really to capitalize on these synergies with the partnership and mutually reinforce each other. So, and again, to show international cooperation across sea basins, we're not working in unison in the mission. So the aim is really to be this kind of umbrella platform for all the activities that are happening in the EU. And explore synergies. Also, what is very important for us are all your initiatives, all your policies in Denmark, the national policies and programs that we really would be very keen to connect with the mission and exploit these synergies, so that we can create, let's say, you're creating a mission hub in Denmark, but we would like to create this mission hub, and I think it's a good word to, for all of Europe and beyond, to all work together on the mission, and then eventually, of course, also with international activities such as the UN Ocean Decade and so on, that we are all connected with and following. So yeah, with this, I'm extremely sorry. I was very long, so I stop here.
Good,
And,
but
yeah.
thank you very much, Michaela, for this very good presentation of the mission. We have got a couple of questions in the chat, and maybe we should take them here before continuing. The first is from Marie Østergaard. I don't know, Marie, would you post it yourself, or should I read it?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to say it.
Do it fast, but
yeah, it's a very simple question in the beginning. You presented the objectives, and amongst these several 50% reductions of, I think, microplastic and also nutrient losses, chemical pesticides. But what compared to when? What is what year?
Yeah.
What's the reference?
That's a very good question indeed. So the reference year would be ideally 2021, and for exactly this question that you just posed, we have launched. We did launch a study, which is this baseline study that I didn't want to go into detail before. So there's this big publication. I can later put it in the chat as well, where we really tried together with a consortium of consultants to see what is the baseline for all these indicators in the year 2021, 2022, let's say, when the study finished. And it's really not banal at all to be able to define this baseline, because the main issue is, of course, lack of data. So we want, if we look at net zero maritime emissions, we need to basically also know what are the emissions right now, and then we want to look at, okay, how does the transport look like? How many ferries are there going up and down? And so this was all attempted to establish. It is not very easy, because for many things, data, I'm completely honest, data are simply not available. So what we are trying now, because of course we also need to measure the success of the mission and the impact it will have until 2030. So we are trying right now with the mission implementation platform to construct indicators to be able to measure the progress, and then for some we need to be a bit more flexible and work with what we have. But yeah, I hope this answered more or less the question.
But so I work at the Danish Agriculture and Food Council, so I'm especially concerned with the nutrients, and the cases that when we look at HELCOM targets, Denmark is the only country that actually we fulfilled our nitrogen and phosphorus targets within HELCOM. We still have reductions to do, but so halving what the emissions now, it would seem pretty unfair to us, because we have done a lot, whereas other countries are lagging behind. So if we set the baseline now, I think an unproportionately large part of the burden would be put on Denmark.
Good. I think that some of the other questions that have been posed in the chat have already been answered, and if not, then we can just maybe answer them in the chat and take them up in the end. The reason for that is that I'm looking a little bit into the time, but thank you very much, Michaela, for this good introduction to the Oceans mission. And now, as I said in my beginning, now we will tell you a little bit more about how we are working with the mission in Denmark. And I will just see if I can proceed to the next slide here. I think Harald, is it you who will start this introduction?
Yes, indeed.
And maybe you could just say 2 words about yourself.
Yes, I will. I want to start with saying that Denmark, defined by its geography, culture, but also cultural heritage, is a blue country. But Denmark is also amongst the world champion when it comes to sustainable wind energy, in particular offshore wind energy. Denmark is amongst the world leading countries manifested by Maersk in committing to a sustainable low-carbon waterborne transport industry. Denmark is also very engaged in the low-trophic aquaculture and the restoration of coastal and marine ecosystems. So, and in addition to the huge opportunities that we have within the European Ocean Mission, Denmark is also in a fortunate position that we have many private foundations who actually committed substantially to support research innovation within the blue area. So I'm really happy to see so many different actors here today from many different fields. I think this is very important, and I want to thank you for being here today. However, given the challenges within the ocean and the opportunities to use the ocean to mitigate climate change and increase biodiversity, I think further and continued commitment of all of us is needed. So my name is Harald Hastad-Schiital. I work at the University of Southern Denmark, SDU, and together with my colleague Cecilia Pedersen, who is our Ocean Mission Manager at SDU, and Dennis Lisbjerg from DTU Aqua, we will showcase you some examples of how Danish institutions actually contribute and participate to reach the objectives of the Ocean Mission on a European, national, and regional scale. Please bear in mind that this is only a very fragmented list. There would be dozens of projects that should be mentioned, but due to the short amount of time we have, we can only give you a short snapshot of what we are aware of. The next slide, please. The first project that I want to showcase is the Prep for Blue project. This is actually the first project that was funded under the Horizon Europe Ocean Mission. And we actually, in this project, we aim to lay the groundwork, the preparatory action for all the Ocean Mission projects to come in the future. Here we focus on tools, framework, guidance, best practices in the areas of citizen and stakeholder engagement, business models, governance models, and digital tools. This is a pan-European project stretching above all four lighthouse areas. Next slide, please. Next project I would like to showcase is the Blue Mission Banos. Here we now zoom from a pan-European scale into the North Sea and Baltic Sea region. And here we focus on low-trophic aquaculture in a multi-use setting. In particular, we focus on low-trophic aquaculture in the offshore wind energy sector. We also focus on enabling a zero carbon blue economy, including shipping. Also here, we work on actually developing frameworks, best practices for governance models in the Baltic and North Sea region. We have one work package on business and innovation models for upscaling. We have a huge focus on citizen engagement, but also on actually finding synergies with other European EU missions, but also, and most importantly, synergies with ongoing activities within the countries of the North Sea region and Baltic Sea region. There are two events I would like to make you aware of, and please save the date. We are organizing a workshop at the Klimafolkemøde, so that's the Climate Citizen Assembly, if I translate this correctly. There's a workshop on citizen engagement in offshore wind energy, and this is at the end of August, beginning of September. The second event that is worthwhile for you to save the date is actually the first mission arena event in Gothenburg, 14th to 16th of November this year. Here, all the actors within the region will have the opportunity to discuss the topics that are relevant for the Baltic and North Sea basin. Next slide, please. This is very brief. And we also participate in the Blue Mission AA, which is a project in the Atlantic and Arctic Sea basin. Here, we actually participate on topics related to marine protection and restoration in the Arctic and Atlantic and beyond. The second project I'm really happy to mention today, it's because we signed the grant agreement with the European Commission 2 days ago. So now the project is official. This is the Algae Pro Banos project. And here we focus on upscaling and accelerate product development from algae and bring those products closer to market. Here we actually address the whole value chain. So, and with that, I would like to give the word to my colleague Dennis Lisbjerg from DTU Aqua, who will present you 2 of the innovation actions in the Nordic and Baltic Sea region, focusing on multi-use in the offshore wind sector. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Harald. I'll just say a few words. And as Niels mentioned, I will just introduce myself and the team here. As Harald says, I'm from DTU Aqua, and DTU Aqua is, of course, a research institute working in the marine area, and we've been doing fisheries research for many years, but we're also doing a lot of other also environmental and use of resources in many aspects from the oceans. And we are, of course, also interested in both the missions and what else is taking place on the European scale. I mean, we're used to coordinating our monitoring and research efforts in fisheries. And when we are talking about ocean research, it is really on a larger scale than nations. So it's always good to see a coordinated efforts taking place in the sea basins. And that's why we really follow this mission. So it's both me and Christian behind me, and Flor, who is also in this call, who is from our side following the mission work. And we are involved in that Blue Mission Banos that Harald also mentioned. But we also follow the partnership that Michaela mentioned, that is also on the European level, is funding research on the European level. So together with Innovation Fund Denmark, we follow the work there in our office here. But for now, I'll just introduce you to these 2 projects, innovation actions that Michaela also quickly mentioned, that are looking into sort of a multi-use of some of the marine space in the future. We know that especially the wind farm will be increasing in our seas. So that's why the mission has launched this innovation action, and 2 projects have been funded that DTU is participating in. One is the Uld Farm, and it's about circular low trophic offshore aquaculture in wind farms and restoration of marine space. So basically, the project will look into wind farm areas and see how to best also use the area for example, seaweed aquaculture or mussel or oyster farming. And the seaweeds that they are looking into is the ulva, the sea lettuce, and the dulse, the red søl på dansk, and the Saccharina sukkertang algae species. Then if you next slide, please. As you can see, when they're looking at this multi-use, it's not only about the aquaculture together with the wind farms, it's also about looking into other aspects of nature restoration and utilizing artificial reefs and considering the design. And that also goes for the next project. Next slide, please. Olamur, that is also on offshore low traffic aquaculture in a multi-use scenario realization, it's called. And here Denmark is also participating together with some other countries, and it also has some case study areas. Here we have 3 case study areas, one in the North Sea, one in the Danish waters, and one in Estonian waters. So it really goes across the different salinities and different eutrophication levels and different exposure degrees. And here it's also looking into both mussel and seaweed farming and also some oyster farming. And for the 2 of the case studies, it's next to wind farms, but for the Estonian case, it's how to look into the use of or the possibility of farming lower trophic level together with a finfish farm. So it's different perspective that they are also considering there. But that was just very briefly on some of the innovation actions that are now taking place, and hopefully what will come out of that is some new findings on how to actually multi-use some of these marine spaces that can then, in the next phase of the mission, as Michaela also mentioned, can be scaled up and be sort of used in other spaces, places in Europe as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Then it's me, and Harald already introduced me. I'm Cecilie. I'm the Ocean Mission Manager at University of Southern Denmark. And as Harald also mentioned, that we have so many activities in Denmark that are related to the Ocean Mission, and I would like to briefly introduce to you a couple of activities in Denmark that are linked to the Ocean Mission, but not funded by the Ocean Mission. So try to showcase some of the synergies that are with the Mission Ocean in Denmark. I start from the top. So one international action we have ongoing in Denmark is the Zero Emission Shipping Mission that is in Denmark represented by the Ministry for Climate, Energy and Utilities, Ministry for Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of Industry, Business and Financial Affairs, where in the Danish Maritime Authority are driving some of the work, together with 2 other countries as co-lead, and the Mærsk Mc-Kinney Møller Center for Zero Carbon Shipping and the Global Maritime Forum. They also have several important core mission members and mission support member states that are very important for the shipping industry. And in this project, which is a nice introduction to a mission-based project, they focus on a broader range of aspects. Since if you want to change the way of shipping, you can't only look at the ships, but you also have to look for the fuel production and the fuel infrastructure at the harbors. And if you have any questions in relation to this, you can send an email to the inbox. Yeah, but this is a nice Danish contribution to the Mission Ocean, especially with the focus of the climate neutral and circular economy focus in the Baltic Sea and North Sea. Next slide, please. So looking also on a broader perspective, in Denmark, we have just settled the UN Ocean Decade Committee for Denmark, Greenland, and the Faroe Islands, where we have several theme groups looking into different subjects. One of them is co-creation and synergies with other projects, such as the Mission Ocean. And if you have more interest in the committee, you can take a look at Havets 10 år at .dk. And next slide, please. On a national level, we also have a network of marine and maritime education and innovation actors that are trying to link the Danish maritime research and education to the industry and make it more visible in other areas. Next slide. And also on a national level, we have the new Danish Center for Marine Restoration. That is a collaboration of 3 universities and Limfjordsrådet, where they focus on not only monitoring and data collection, but also knowledge sharing and dissemination. So with a high focus on this knowledge transfer to agencies and local actors, as well as the public. And on a national level, as Harald already mentioned, we also have several Danish private foundations that have marine and freshwater focus, such as Velux Foundation and Ove Jensens Fund. Next slide. And then my last little showcase is a local, very local one that we have based in the watershed of Odense Fjord, which is a very nice case of community of practice, where municipalities and utility and service providers, small local businesses, the agriculture businesses, NGOs, and a University of Southern Denmark, together work for the common goal of bringing the fjord and upland waters into good environmental status. So this is a very nice showcase of how a common mission can drive towards common results that are best for everyone in the area. And I think that was all for me. So going from a local to a regional scale, Pernille from the South Denmark EU office.
Yes, thank you, Cecilia. Hi, everyone. My name is Pernille Daue, and I work for the South Denmark EU office. And I'm very happy to be here today and together with all of you listening in, to be part of strengthening the focus and hopefully the engagement in the ocean mission in Denmark. And I'm here today to share the regional perspective because, as many of you know, the local and the regional authorities, they play a central role in the missions and particularly in the ocean mission. Next slide, please. So a short intro to the work I do for regions and with regions. So to the non-Danish people listening in, Denmark is divided into 5 regions, and each region has its own EU office. So I work for the South Danish EU office, which is a regional EU office based in Brussels. And it's owned by the region of South Denmark and the 22 Danish municipalities. And our job at the EU office is to support the region and the municipalities in engaging with EU projects, so Horizon Europe and also the missions. Next slide, please. I also work a lot with the regions from all over Europe through the network ERIN. And ERIN stands for European Regions Research and Innovation Network. So what they do is almost in their name. It's a Brussels-based network connecting 120 regions from all over the EU. So you can see a bit on the map that they cover almost all of the EU. I even think they're missing a few yellow dots in Denmark because all the 5 Danish regions are part of ERIN. So that's worth knowing. I'm one of the working group leaders in the Blue Economy Working Group, which is a working group where we get together to discuss water-related marine and maritime issues. And we bring together approximately 40 regions at regular working group meetings where we discuss policy developments, funding opportunities, and the status and the engagement in the ocean mission. And it's through this role that I've been able to get an insight into the challenges, but also the opportunities that regions see in engaging with the ocean mission. Next slide, please. So although the missions are based on what we know as classical research and innovation calls that some of us know from FP7 and Horizon 2020, the missions are a bit different in the fact that they aim to tackle much wider societal challenges and also to lead to solutions with bigger social impact. And in order to achieve this, it is impossible to employ what we call a multi-actor approach. And it is where you engage all the relevant stakeholders, but not just at EU and national level, as we know it from previous funding programs maybe, but also at regional and local level. And especially in large EU countries, it's very important to think about this local level and not just the national level. Because the regions have different strategies, they have different goals, they have different capabilities. It matters to a lesser extent in Denmark because we're so small and homogeneous, but in some countries like France and Italy, there are huge differences between the regions. And also with the ocean mission, as we know, it's quite sea basin specific. So that means that the regions around the specific sea basins are likely to get a lot more engaged in the ocean missions than other national regions that may not lie close to that sea basin. Another reason is that the regions and municipalities are important in these calls because proposals have to be site specific. So the regions, the municipalities, they can function as the geography and they can be a bit of the lab for the solutions that are being tested. Also, to be successful, it's important that solutions are co-created. So that means that local authorities should be involved in both the design, but also the implementation of the solutions to actually ensure that the solutions are successfully implemented also in the long term. And finally, citizen engagement is one of the core pillars of the mission approach. So that means that local authorities, again, important to involve because they have a unique position in reaching out to a lot of local stakeholders. They can engage the citizens living near the floods or the coasts that you want to work with to become part of the process and also to accept the change long term. Next, please. So, however, despite this huge focus on involving local and regional authorities, since the mission was launched, there has been a bit of a challenge getting regions to really engage in the mission. It's actually been one of the stakeholders that has been hardest to reach, and that's why I'm here today with a few input to how we can all work to get the regions even more engaged in this mission. So some of the top concerns of the regions are that they're simply not used to engaging in research and innovation projects. They don't really know where to get started. They don't have a large network to reach out to, as a lot of universities and research institutions may have. They don't have the experience, they don't have the knowledge to write and run big projects. They may be familiar with Interreg projects, but are not really ready to jump out into these large-scale mission projects, which we also know are really big compared to other type of EU-funded projects. Another issue is the top-down approach with the ocean mission. That some of these regional stakeholders, they just don't see themselves reflected in the missions because the calls are a bit prescriptive, and they just don't see themselves described so well, and they have a hard time seeing themselves in the call. So they sometimes need help because they are needed in the calls. And then lastly, they can be a bit unsure about who's the mission actually for. Is it for regional stakeholders? They sometimes find it hard to see, whereas Interreg programs are very clearly targeted towards them. So they also need help to understand that they are targeted in these calls. So One of the questions that I'm working a lot with is how can we better engage the regions and the municipalities in the ocean mission? And one of the ways that we at South Denmark EU office have been successful with working with the mission has been to try to set up these local regional ecosystems where a lot of local actors support each other. So rather than turning our nose towards the EU for international partners, we try to match some strong local partners with loads of EU experience and research and innovation experience. So universities primarily, with local municipalities or regions that have less or no experience. Because they often don't know where to start and they need to mature a bit into EU projects. So they rely on an experienced partner to take their hand and lead them into a proposal. So we build up this, what we call triple helix partnerships, where we from the EU office try to help gather a local authority, an university, relevant businesses, maybe support from the region, NGO or other civil society actors, and then build up a strong local partnership. It also makes it a lot easier to place this local partnership as a pilot into bigger EU consortia. And a super successful case is the Odense Fjord samarbejde, which Cecilia just presented. And you can always ask Cecilia about more info if you want to hear about it, but it's a great example of building up this local ecosystem that's very strong, where you get both the region, you get the municipality, you have the university leading the way. Yeah, so that's something we really do. So we do see that there are a lot of Danish projects and marine related activities, as Cecilia and Dennis presented. And what we do is we try to link these initiatives with the regions and the municipalities to build stronger ecosystems. Yes, next slide, please. So how else do we move forward and ensure the success of the mission in Denmark? So the European Commission is already super busy, as we all know. So first and foremost, they are spreading the word and getting regions and other actors to engage in the Ocean Mission Charter, as Michaela already presented. And we have seen with some of the other missions that the stakeholders experiences fear of missing out, that no one wanted to be the one who had not signed the charter with the city missions and the climate mission. It became really prestigious to sign the charter and become part of this group. And I'm really curious to see if this can be done more for the ocean mission, so we also create this fear of missing out. Another initiative that the Commission is also working on is this concept of associated regions, where mission proposals are expected to engage 3 to 5 associated regions in the projects, to then showcase the replicability and the scalability of the solutions developed in the project. This is also a way to get even more regions engaged, not as core partners in the project, but as someone who has to replicate some of the proven solutions. And then also just to a shout out to everyone that the Commission is extremely open for input. I think Michaela even said that, and she's also here today. It's definitely my experience working a lot with the Commission and the Ocean Mission Secretariat. So if anyone wants to get involved, share feedback, I believe they're very welcoming to that. They arrange a lot of workshops, a lot of focus group meetings, and events to discuss the mission. I actually just participated in a focus group 2 days ago to discuss the Ocean Charter and what regional representatives would like to see in the Ocean Charter. So there's plenty of opportunities to come with the input if anyone is interested. Yes, next slide. However, there's only so much the European Commission can do. I also believe it's up to us, the regional EU offices, to help support the ocean mission in Denmark. And then I think this national approach, this national support that I think Niels is going to present right after me, is also a very good initiative to really mobilize strong regional ecosystems and create strong projects. Because I believe that Danish hub is a great start. It could give a lot of legitimacy to the mission and make it a lot more, make regions that are not so aware of it a lot more aware, and it will send a clear signal to regional stakeholders about the importance of this. It could also be a way to communicate more tailor-fit information in Danish, in the national language, to the regional stakeholders who are often not as used to working in English. It can also be a way to bring Danish partners together to create these strong regional ecosystems, which I think is really important to be successful in the missions. And then I also know that there are a few non-Danes listening in, and I have also received quite a bit of interest in Brussels from other regions, from other EU countries, who think this Danish national hub sounds very interesting. So it's also something that we have a chance to potentially share across the EU. I know the Commission loves replicability, so that could be a good thing. So I think it's a job for all of us who know a lot about the mission, the ocean mission, and who work with the ocean mission, to better communicate and bring in the local and regional stakeholders in these projects. And then my last slide, please. And then I just want to finish up saying to all the Danes out there, universities, companies, research institutions, regional authorities, municipalities, everyone, if you want to learn more about the ocean mission, if you want to apply for ocean mission, if you want to help some of you local actors engage more in the ocean mission, please reach out to one of your EU offices. Everyone has an EU office. It depends on in what region you're placed, but you can Google us and find us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pernille, for this good introduction to the structure of the regions in Denmark, and also the interest from you and the regions to participate in the Oceans mission. Now I will continue with what has been mentioned a couple of times. Yes, here you have also the green team in the South Denmark European office, which is beside Pernille, also Helle Bæk and Thomas Jensen. But as was mentioned a couple of times during this webinar, and also by myself in the introduction, we are thinking about establishing a Danish ocean mission hub. The idea is really to have a network that can help us in achieving the objectives of the ocean mission in Denmark. Also to have a network where we can work together across sectors, across ministries, agencies, regions, universities, organizations, funders, so that we can see, yes, how we can link our initiatives and do things more coordinated and with synergies. The idea was also to see if we can use this ocean mission hub to engage citizens, young people, to take part in this action, and to inform all the stakeholders runningly about the many activities in the ocean mission, and not especially in the work programs which will come up here in the coming years. So that was the idea. We think here in my place that we can be better. We can have more synergies, both within the EU programs, but also synergies with other international and national initiatives. You have mentioned, Michaela, the relation with the Horizon Europe program, but also with the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. We have other partnerships like Water for All, Biodiversa, and also some new partnerships are coming up. That could also be synergies working with them. We have also the IT and the KICs. A new water KIC is foreseen to come in 2026. We have the big, very important program, the European Maritime Fisheries and Aquaculture Fund program, which is also, I think, in many ways, related to this mission. We have, as was mentioned a couple of times, HELCOM. We are working on a Danish ocean plan. We have a Danish aquaculture strategy. I could mention a lot of initiatives where I think we could, yes, get more out of them, creating collaboration and synergies. So that's the reason that we would like to introduce this idea. And the next step is that we will continue our dialogue with the relevant ministries, regions, and other stakeholders. We'll also try to create synergies with the Horizon Europe partnerships, the Maritime and Fisheries and Aquaculture program, the series emission shipping initiatives, and other initiatives that was also mentioned here today. We'll also try to increase our information about the ocean mission. We will work intensively with the TRAMI project, which you could maybe say a couple of words about, Peter. PREP for Blue and Blue Mission Barners and other projects which was mentioned. And then we are foreseen to have our first meeting in September. We have not put a date on that, but we'll come back on that. And the idea was not to exclude anybody from this mission hub, but to make sure that we have really interested people. I would urge you to contact us and tell us if you are interested to join us in this hub. So that's where we are, and you can contact me, but you can also contact Cecilia or Dennis if you want to know a little bit more about what we are intending to do, and if you are interested to join it. But before concluding and also maybe take some questions in, maybe Peter, you could say a couple of things about the TRAMI.
Yes, I'll be very brief since we are running out of time. But essentially, TRAMI is the name of a Horizon project, which has established a European missions network. In a moment, I can put a link to the European Mission Network website in the chat. But otherwise, if you search European Missions Network, I'm sure you'll find it. Essentially, the aim is to gather stakeholders across governance, researchers, companies, business organizations, citizens as well, anyone who might be involved in the implementation of one of the 5 missions or all 5, and build a community of practice around these. So more specifically, the European Missions Network will organize workshops, mutual learning exercises, as it's called, webinars, different events where they will discuss and try to share experiences with different issues pertaining to how to best implement a certain mission. So it could be a workshop aimed at researchers participating in missions work that are perhaps not part of a Horizon call, so it's not directly linked to the Horizon work program, but it could maybe be an activity that is related to the missions. There could be a workshop on that, or they could do something for someone in governance, trying to come up with better models for how to govern the implementation of missions. Essentially, the network is open to ideas, to input from its stakeholders on what would be an interesting subject for a workshop, based on what are we struggling with in order to achieve the mission goals. So it's a networking exercise across Europe.
Good. Thank you, Peter. And we will come back to you also how to benefit and work with TRIME. Michaela, I saw that you raised your hand. You have a question or a comment?
Thank you. Yes, Niels, I just wanted to complement what you said in the previous slide about the synergies with programs such as MFAF and the partnerships and the KICs. So I omitted that in my presentation, but because this one slide I had, this was purely what the unit I'm working in DG R&I is funding basically, but so I didn't specifically mention the other programs, but this is very important for us that we create really strong links with MFAF, LIFE, ERDF, Interreg, the Recovery and Resilience Funds, Water for All Partnership, Zero Maritime Emissions Partnership, to name a few. Prima. So and for instance with the ERDF, with the structural funds, we are exploring to see how it will work in practice, you know, to it's called cumulative funding. So basically you can apply to MFAF and to Horizon Europe, for instance, and you get funding from both programs for different parts of your project. So we are exploring how we can really operationalize that, make it really effective, and then be able to explain that also to our community how this is done. And yeah. That's just in parentheses, so I let you finish the workshop. Thank you.
But thank you very much, Michaela. But as you can see, that's really our intention to connect to all other relevant initiatives, both in the EU but also outside the EU. And yes, I can see some questions in the chat, and I take the last one first. Maybe that was a question about the water kick. I cannot say so much about that. I can say that it is foreseen to come. So if you go into the EIT strategy, you can see that it is foreseen there. You can also see what it will be about. And but I can say that we know that there are people, groups who are already now starting to work on that and to see how they can build a consortium. If you want to know a little bit more about the border kick, please contact me. So that would be my answer to this. The next question, I take them from the bottom, and maybe Michaela, you can also help me. But this is a question: how does the Ocean Mission plan to incorporate social sciences and governance? How can we integrate these perspectives in Denmark and beyond? Would you answer on that, Michaela? Because I think that we have a lot of possibilities to include social sciences in this mission, but I don't know if you could give an answer on that.
Well, on a very practical side, so what we're aiming to do is really be this kind of bottom-up initiative and work in unison with citizens and in a participatory way, really including all sectors of society. I mean, not just citizens, but also different communities of stakeholders. so that's the practical side. Also, you know, in our events, we're working also a lot with schools, blue schools. We have a few projects on that, and we have the very concrete examples of great results from pupils in these projects. So that's on a practical level, and on a, let's say, on the more research side, in all the calls that we're launching in the mission work program, you will see when you read the topic text that we always, I mean, not just encourage, but it is a hard requirement that all the projects, they have a interdisciplinary or even transdisciplinary approach in how these consortia work. So we will never accept purely technical projects. So the social sciences are always embedded in all the, be it research actions, innovation actions, and certainly also the coordination and support actions. So I hope this may answer a little bit the question.
Thank you, Michaela. Then I can see that Dennis, you have raised your hand.
Yeah, it was basically to complement a little bit what Michaela was saying. I also focused on, you could say, the more hard resource use when I presented the innovation actions. But as Michaela said, in the innovation actions, there's actually also other elements that needs to be covered, and especially in these two innovation actions, it's also about how we sort of perceive seafood, for example, with a lot more seaweed in the food and things like that, and also looking at consumer preferences and things like that. So there are other aspects than the pure natural science and technology fix into these innovation actions. But perhaps now that I have the floor, I have a few other comments as well, if that is okay, Niels.
Okay, come on.
Yeah, because I know that Pernille was quite focused on how to engage the regions in the Horizon or the mission calls. And that is, of course, one thing, and it would be nice to see the regions more active in that. But on the other hand, my understanding of the entire mission and also this mission hub is really also to dig out what is actually going on in, for example, Denmark by the regions, and perhaps through Interreg projects or funded by national means that then can be come up and be sort of more visible, and then also perhaps see how we can make synergies between those and other activities that are taking place that is working towards the missions. And in that respect, I also think it's relevant to ensure that we have the Danish klynger participating and being active also in the mission charter to showcase what they are actually doing that is working towards the mission. And I know we have Clean here in the meeting, one of the Danish klynger that has definitely some companies and activities that are relevant for the mission, but also other klynger in Denmark. And also, as Michaela said, the funding lines, there are different funding lines, both nationally, but other EU funding lines that could be relevant to include. And some of them in Denmark is through Erhvervsfremmebestyrelsen. So again, to sort of make it more visible what is going on from other sides is what we could use this mission hub for. And also the private foundations, what they are doing, make that sort of a more visible. And I can see we have Mathilde from Velux here in the meeting as well, so that we utilize the mission hub to sort of focus on that. Because it's not only the money that comes from the EU we should focus on, it's actually what we also do nationally and can do nationally in the coming years. And then, as Cecilia mentioned, I think it was, or Harald, that we should also look into the Ocean Decade where we have started this Danish committee in Denmark that is for this decade to really focus on the oceans. And so we need to see how we can leverage on that as well with the mission and engage and get some Danish funding for research that contribute to the mission objectives. Yeah, so that was a lot of different aspects on that. Thanks.
Good. Thank you very much, Dennis. And I cannot see more questions raised in the chat. So therefore, we have the opportunity now also to keep our timeline. I think we have had a very, very good webinar today. Thank you very much for all of you who gave presentations. I think that we have managed to give you a small introduction to this mission, both how it is seen from an EU perspective, what's in there, what's in the work program, what are the process, but also how we are working with this mission in Denmark, and how we just are able also to connect it to other initiatives, either Danish or international initiatives. I think, as you also, I think, said here, Dennis, this mission is something which are connecting to many initiatives. It cannot stand alone. It's not only as seen as an EU program, just a new initiative from EU, but it's much more than that. And I think that's really the challenge: how we can benefit from this approach. I think it was also very interesting to hear from you, Pernille, the regional aspects of this mission, how to get regions engaged, and we will come back to that, because I think regions are very important in implementing this mission. And then then there was this idea which we will come back to on the Ocean Mission Hub. And if you are interested, please send us an email, either to me, Dennis, or to Cecilie, and then we will come back to you. And the idea was that we would plan a first meeting in September. So I hope that we, within 2 weeks, can fix a date and also send an invitation around for this meeting. So with these words, I think we only went 2 minutes over time, and I will say thank you for everybody for participating here, and you will hear more from us and about this mission. So have a nice day. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, and we're looking forward to collaborate with all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.